Hello, and welcome to the ASDRP Researcher Interview Series. Today, I'll be talking with Pranav Singh. Thank you so much for being here today. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I'm glad to have you here. To start us off, will you tell me a little bit about yourself? So where you go to high school and your hobbies and things like that.
So currently I'm a senior attending Basis Independent Silicon Valley. And then as far as hobbies go, I love to read. I'm also like a huge sci-fi geek, so I watch a bunch of Star Wars, Star Trek, as well as read a bunch of comics too. So I like to do that in my free time.
Awesome. That's super cool. How did you find out about ASDRP?
So initially it was the beginning of my sophomore year, and my computer science teacher told me about ASDRP as well as like the opportunities it offered. And I was like, hey, I've never done research before, but it sounds really cool. And then I gave it a shot, and I've like been here since like the start of 10th grade, and I'm loving it.
That's awesome. And so what grade are you in currently?
I'm a senior. So 12th grade.
Okay, great. So that's 3 years at ASDRP?
I just started my third year here.
Awesome. That's quite an accomplishment. Have you been working with the same research group the whole time?
No, so initially I was part of Mr. Subramaniam's group, and then for one term or semester, and then I worked with Miss Karishma Johnson for 2 semesters, and then I worked with Professor Downing for 2 semesters, and now I'm currently working with Dr. Mui for this is my second semester with him.
Wow, so you've gotten to experience a lot of different projects. What is the project that you're currently working on?
So part of Dr. Mui's algorithmic bias research group, my group and I are focused on mitigating facial recognition bias in facial recognition software by using synthetic generative techniques to essentially balance out data sets. And so pretty much how that works is that I'm sure you have an iPhone or some sort of smartphone, right? And it has facial recognition software. And although it performs pretty well, if we look at like subclass classification tasks, it performs pretty poorly comparatively on like people of color and women compared to like white males, right? And that's something that is due to the fact that there's a lot of training data imbalanced with there being a lot more like say pictures of white males compared to like say African American women, and this causes significant it causes like a significant disparity in classification tasks, and that's pretty much what my group is working to sort of mitigate or like combat.
That's awesome, especially as the facial recognition technology gets more and more used throughout our daily lives. So are you creating your own data set to like train the artificial intelligence? How does that work?
No, so we are like the data set that we're using is the UTK face data set, and we picked it because it's imbalanced. So it's like sort of a great test to see how well our generative techniques work in like improving model performance. And the UTK face data set is a pretty staple data set used by many individuals who want to do like face classification tasks. And yeah, the UTK face data set is the one we primarily use. And I know there's a couple other ones out there like the fair face data set that some other individuals use as well.
Very cool. What made you interested in joining this project?
Um, Personally, ever since joining ASDRP, I've been really fascinated with like the applications of say computer science because I've taken like classes in computer science at school, like APCSA, but it never really focused on like the potential applications of the subject. And research really allowed me to do that specifically for like this research group. It just gives me like an avenue to really explore how computer science can both like positively and negatively affect the world we live in. And that's pretty much why I wanted to join this research group.
That's a great reason. And were you working on similar applications in your other projects as you've gone throughout ASDRP?
So I with Miss Karishma Johnson, I worked with more audio stuff. Like it was predicting or trying to classify emotions of the 2020 presidential candidates by using machine learning and deep learning to recognize sort of their emotions in their various political speeches they gave after the campaigns, to sort of see how they felt towards various policy issues, just to have more transparency towards like politicians and to really know what they're saying and how they believe in the things that they're saying. But as far as imaging goes, this is my first time working with like image recognition and facial classification.
Awesome. That sounds like another really interesting project. I didn't realize that you could analyze emotions through those speeches for machine learning. So that's so awesome. In any of your projects that you've done, what has been the greatest challenge you've encountered in your research?
So I guess for the most recent one, Dr. Mui, there are a bunch of synthetic generative techniques out there, like generative adversarial networks or GANs, and then variational autoencoders or VAEs. And there's been work done for like how to use it in like specific fields. But in the case of like facial recognition software and like applying it to like balance the data set out, there hasn't been that much work, I would say, in that sort of area. So like taking something that's already existed and then like sort of implementing it in something rather novel was definitely a challenge, because you're sort of like starting from scratch, I would say, because there's not, although you're building on previous research, there's still a lot of stuff you have to do by yourself. And initially that is pretty daunting. So I would say that's one of the harder aspects of this current project.
That definitely makes sense, that trailblazing aspect, but that's amazing that you're able to experience that. What do you do as a researcher every day in your current project? So what does your daily routine at ASDRP look like?
So currently this project, we don't have to go to lab. So probably it's like get up, especially on a weekend, normally it'll be like around 10 a.m., 11 a.m. And then I would do a bit of homework, and then at around 4 p.m., I would say 8 p.m., 9 p.m. is sort of when like I would be coding or doing more literature reviews and sort of diving into different intricacies and different sort of techniques that we could potentially use in our research. And yeah, so from about 4 to 9, I'll be working on research. And of course, with breaks in between, I'll play with my dog here and there and watch a couple of YouTube videos just to ensure that like I don't go completely insane. But yeah, so from 4 to 9-ish, I'll be working, and then I'll call it a day, and then I'll just update my group of what I've accomplished, as well as any questions or concerns that I might have. And yeah, that usually happens for the weekends. And then for the weekdays, just as soon as I finish my homework, I'll try to get in a bit of work. And after that, I'll update my group with what I've done. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice. It's good to hear that you have a work-life balance between your research at ASDRP and everything else. But that's cool. And then, so you're researching at home right now. Have you researched in the lab before?
Yeah. So the one research project that required me to go to the lab was the one with Professor Downing. And that was part of a bigger interdisciplinary group with Mr. New. And it was pretty much about like our specific subset of the project was creating a chemical synthesis platform, which is pretty much a chemical synthesis robot that can make chemical compounds without like humans being there. And this is due to the fact that manual chemical synthesis is generally pretty expensive, as well as it could be potentially dangerous. So our goal is just to automate the whole process to make it a lot easier for chemists, because manual synthesis is, again, a labor-intensive process. To just make chemists' lives easier, as well as just trying to synthesize new compounds that could be possibly made.
That is another really fascinating project. And again, that's so applied, like it just goes directly into helping something carry out its function. So that is really cool. Well, for my final question today, I would love to know what advice you would give to a future researcher looking to join ASDRP.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, like especially for like the chemistry group. Although like I did take chemistry in as like some of the classes throughout high school, like going into that research group, I knew practically nothing about like the chemistry jargon, and it's definitely really intimidating at first, but don't be afraid to ask questions. All of us are here to learn, and just be fearless, you know, like keep asking questions, keep learning, keep improving yourself and your skill sets. And that's how I think you can really make an impact on the people around you and the researcher community as well.
Absolutely, that's great advice. I love the be fearless. That's cool. That's a cool thing for researchers to live by. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and for talking about your research and about yourself, and good luck with the rest of the semester.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye.